Hello humans. Today I'm going to teach you how to perform a simple frequency analysis on a message by using Python. By the end of this tutorial, we'll have a program that reads through a message we give it and it will report three things: the total number of characters, how many of those are special characters, and the number of times each letter appeared in our message. Before we get into that, I want to clarify what a character is. A character is a letter, number, or special character. Special characters are just symbols, such as period, comma, or space. Pretty much anything you see on your keyboard that isn't a number or letter. Like always, we need a plan before we write any code. We need to store the message that we want to analyze and create our counters. Then we need to go through the message letter by letter and increase the counter based on what we see. Lastly, we need to report our findings to the user. To start us off, I'll create a couple comments at the top of our code to describe the author, date, and purpose of this file. Now we begin the section that I'll call prep work. I'll create message, and this will be equal to the message that we want to analyze. I'll set message to code for humans for now, but later on, we'll be able to post paragraphs of text into this and analyze it all the same. For the meantime, I'll keep our message short, as this will make testing a lot easier. Now, we need to count how many times A appears in our message, and how many times B appears, and how many times C appears, and so on for every letter in the alphabet. There's several ways to store counters for each letter, but I'm going to use a dictionary. I'll create letter frequency and add the key A to it. Since we haven't started analyzing yet, I'll say that I've seen A 0 times. Then I'll say I've seen B 0 times, and so on for every letter in the alphabet. When we are analyzing our message and come across a letter, let's say J, I'll look in my dictionary, letter frequency, and I'll find the value that corresponds with J, and I'll add 1 to it. We'll repeat this process for every letter in our message, and by the end of our string, we'll have letter frequency filled in. Before we get to that, I'm going to create special characters and set it equal to 0. Instead of counting every special character separately, I'm going to group them together and just get a total count. To start analyzing our message, we need to create a loop that loops one time for every character in our string. Python makes this easy on us, as we can just say for character in string. The first time this runs, character will be set equal to the first letter in message, so C in this case. The next time this loop runs, character will be O, and so on for every character in our message. The first thing I want to do is format each letter. Python sees lowercase c as a completely different entity than uppercase c. So if we only check for lowercase letters, the uppercase letters won't be taken into account. To make things easy, we can just turn all characters into lowercase characters. I'll say that lowercase character is equal to character.lower. Lower is a function that is built into strings, and it takes the string we give it and converts it to a lowercase if it can. Obviously, things like commas or exclamation points don't have lowercase equivalents, but the lower function will just skip over them, so no harm done. Now, let's think about this next part from the perspective of our first loop iteration. Let's say character is C. Within letter frequency, we want to change the value that's associated with the key C, and we want to increase that value by 1. So, I'll say letter frequency at key character is equal to letter frequency at key character plus 1. We want to take the current frequency of C and add 1 to it. I'll print letter frequency and run this, and you can see that we get an error. This is because of the special characters in our message. Our code breaks the first time it sees a special character, so when it sees the first space, our code stops. The period at the end of our message would also break our code, so let's talk about fixing an error when character is equal to period, as visualizing a period is easier than visualizing a space. Lowercase character gets set equal to period without issue, but the error comes from the next line. When we search for the key period in letter frequency, we get a key error. This is because that key does not exist. There is no key for period in our dictionary. The solution for this is a try-catch block. I'll say try to look up the key and add 1 to its value, but if that key doesn't exist, then we get a key error. So accept that and increase special characters by 1. If the current character is not in letter frequency, then it's not a letter, so it must be a number or special character. For simplicity, I'm going to lump numbers into special characters, but you could and probably should implement a number dictionary as well, but I'll leave that to you. Running this, I see that our error is gone. But before we dig into the input, I want to make it a little bit easier to read. To start our report, I'll say that message has X characters in it, where X is equal to the string equivalent of the length of our list. I'll then specify how many of those characters are special characters. Lastly, I don't like how our dictionary gets printed by default, so let's format it ourselves. I'll say, for every key value pair in letter frequency.items, print the key, within brackets, a colon, and the string equivalent of value. This looks a lot more complicated than it is, so let's just run this to see what it looks like. Here we can see that our message has 16 characters in it, 3 of which are special characters, 2 spaces and a period. Then we can see that we have 1 A, no B's, 1 C, and so on. Now we can easily tell how many times a given letter shows up in our message. I'll now change our message to Code for Humans is the best coding channel, and running our code again, I can see the new analysis. This is pretty simple in terms of analysis, but there is so much more that you can do with this. For example, you could use the input function so that your user can type in their own message to analyze. You could also implement some much needed features, such as differentiating numbers from special characters. As always, a big thank you for liking, subscribing, and ringing that bell. Comment below with suggestions for future videos, and I will see you in the next one.